I'm Diego Sanchez, president of HousingWire, and we are live from The Gathering.
Yeah.
And I'm here with Roque, who kind of made a big announcement yesterday. You want to walk our audience through what you did yesterday?
Yeah, so look, HousingWire, Clayton, and the team allowed us to, at Sierra Pacific, allowed us to announce really to the industry and using HousingWire's platform to announce my transition from Cross Country Mortgage over to Sierra Pacific. And we wanted to do it that way because Sierra Pacific as a historic brand has kind of led from behind in a lot of ways. It's been a very, very strong seller servicer, very much committed to the wholesale channel and very much committed to the retail channel, but they really haven't done much by way of creating kind of a big splash or any kind of public sort of display of their strength in the industry. So we thought that, using this conference and the venue here with both, industry leaders on the real estate side as well as mortgage as the platform to announce my transition. So I'm the EVP of Retail. And so my focus is growth by production acquisition to kind of identify teams across the United States, top producing sales teams, and in really companies that are doing $500 million to $1 billion, maybe $1.5 billion, that might be interested in sort of partnering with us so that we can grow in target markets across the United States. So yesterday was the big reveal.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about it. You mentioned a volume range.
Yeah.
What are some of the other characteristics that you're looking for in teams that you would like to bring over to Sierra Pacific?
Really, culture, management, and production are really the first three, and then the economics. But, the cultural alignment is really key. Sierra Pacific is a family organization, and it's very committed to not losing that. Like they really want to maintain kind of a private mortgage banking experience, both for its consumers that it touches, as well as the employees, to create a really sort of intimate sort of family culture within the company. And a lot of companies sort of see that, but as you grow, you tend to lose that. And some companies, I think, have done a decent job maintaining that, but Sierra Pacific is really committed to it. Jim Cafrini, who's really kind of a legend in the business, started the company 35 plus years ago and has just done an amazing job. Again, committing to both channels. Like one thing that attracted me to the organization was they share this view that the future of this business very much is all about wholesale in retail, like a very healthy, balanced, like there's three legs of that stool. There's the depository leg and the non-depository leg. And that non-depository leg really needs to have a healthy balance between independent mortgage banks and mortgage brokers, and in light of, the brokers are better movement and then there's always this backlash, well, retail is better. You have this company that says, wait, a healthy market really needs two healthy channels. And they really sort of embody that within the organization as a whole.
I've spoken with Jay before on a previous 10-minute talk, and he talked about that balance. Do you think there's in terms of percentages of the business that should be in wholesale and retail, does that fluctuate over time, or is there a healthay balance?
That pendulum swings.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that swing, volatilely, we've seen that swing since 2010. I want to say back in 2011, 12, the broker market share was like at 8%, 8 or 9 or 10%. It was really small. And it had really collapsed from about 65%, back in 05, 06, 07. And so it's sort of slowly and incrementally has built itself up through a number of like broker to banker or banker to broker kind of transitions and different things. So the real answer isn't like a 50-50 answer.
Yeah.
The real answer is one that you sort of allow the market to decide based on regulatory changes and pressures, the rate environment, and just market dynamics as a whole. And it kind of depends. Like the Northeast is a really heavy depository environment, and so you kind of allow the market dynamics and the consumers in that market to sort of embrace the channel that it wants to sort of gravitate towards. And so it's really not a 50-50. It's not a really easy answer.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think of Jay, incredible leader, by the way, as extremely disciplined.
Yeah.
Focus on the numbers, always communicating with his team, knows what's going on in every aspect of the business.
Yeah.
What do you think you bring to that partnership with Jay that's going to take Sierra Pacific to that next level?
So, well, number one, I mean, outside of what attracted me to Sierra was not just the longevity in the history of the organization in Jim Caffrini was Jay. You know, I mean, I'd watched his career, and I told him this the other night. Like, I'd watched his career over the last 15, 20 years, and he was such a strong figure at Stearns, and I saw the success and the stability that he had created for Sierra Pacific, that I just said, you know, this is a guy I really want to work with.
Yeah.
You know, and so in that conversation, it was a question of like, how do we extend one another's strengths? And my strengths really are local market knowledge. I have a lot of deep relationships and pockets across the United States, and my ability to really financially dive into the numbers with opportunities, to structure those opportunities, you know, to protect the firm's downside risk, and then to, you know, reward on the upside for both originators, branch managers, and of course the organization itself. So, you know, I'm a deal maker, so I like to do very large acquisitions. It doesn't have to be like asset acquisitions or company acquisitions, but they can be. But then all the way down to, or all the way across the spectrum to loan officers and branch managers in markets across the country.
So are you and Jay open to those sort of branch roll-ins?
Oh yeah.
But also, like you just mentioned, M&A.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is M&A part of the strategy for you and Jay?
So I call M&A more capital partnerships because you know, we have the infrastructure. We don't need to buy chairs, and we don't need to buy licenses. We're licensed in 49, soon to be 50 states. You know, we don't really need the assets from an organization in as much as we do want the sales leadership and sort of the infrastructure that supports a respective sales culture, you know? And so I call them capital partnerships. So if a company's doing $500 million or $1 billion a year or $1.5 billion a year, we could very easily, given our footprint, have them plug into us. I call it a lender as a service, or lending as a service, right? Almost like software as a service. I call that lending as a service, to say, look, we have all the back office infrastructure. We have the legal, the compliance, the IT. We have all that which you need, you know, HR and so on. All you need to do is really plug into that. We can provide you with a DBA, organize a really structured financial arrangement that, again, protects the downside risk of all of us, and it really rewards generously on the upside of the growth as the market goes through its cycles. Sierra is in a unique class of its own, of having one of the largest balance sheets in the country for independent mortgage banks, and we have, you know, 15 to 16 billion worth of servicing. And so it's an incredibly strong company, incredibly strong. What attracted me to Jay in particular was, as we started having these conversations very loosely and not with any real, as we started to sort of talk, there wasn't any real interest in us working together. It was more just mind sharing about the business. Right. And he was like, Rick, you know, I really want to put our capital to use. I really want to sort of apply this almost like, you know, in a professional league, when we go out and you attract and acquire good professional players, I want to put our capital to use. And I just said, you know, look, let me share some ideas as to how you can do that. And then as time went on, we just built that relationship, and it made sense, given the opportunity for me to leave cross country. I think cross country is a great organization, and there's a reason why cross country is number one. It's a remarkable, the leadership there, from Jim to Craig Montgomery to James Berger to Joe Platek and their chief strategy officer, just incredible leadership, like some of the best leadership I've ever seen, you know, in the business. So I wanted to basically take the experiences that I've had leading up to that point in time in my career, and then having worked and collaborated with such strong leaders, and then to apply that to just a new opportunity.
Yeah.
With Sierra, it's a blank canvas from a licensing standpoint, and so we're looking forward to growing.
So higher for longer in terms of rates, not great in terms of origination volume, but probably pretty neat in terms of M&A strategy and looking at recruiting people into the firm.
Look, I actually think rates are probably right where they need to be.
Yeah.
I've always said that a healthy mortgage market probably needs to be within that 6 to 8% range. That way at least the Fed has certain triggers or certain like mechanical maneuvers it can. If your rates are at 3%, there's not a lot of market movement that the Treasury could leverage to assist the economy in any meaningful way. So if we're at 6 to 8.5%, that's kind of a healthy place. Now, how you get there, how quickly you get there, I think is what's destabilized, our economy and the housing sectors, but and how much inventory is there. So, but that 6 to 8% is really a place where the market, in my view, really should be. Now, how mortgage companies adapt to that is another question.
Right. Yep.
And I think a lot of companies got caught really on their heels as many of us were. When the rates went up so fast and the inventory is so tight. And the demand is so high that inflationary pressures just drove everything north, which made home ownership just unaffordable to so many consumers.
Out of reach.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's do a little bit of recruiting work for you.
Yeah.
What's the best way for someone who maybe is interested in having a confidential conversation to reach out to you?
Yeah. Look, if you're a top producing loan officer, or you have a top producing team, or you have a really successful company that's doing $500 million or $1 billion a year, or even $1.5 billion a year, I think someone should call me from that organization. My cell phone number is 413-297-6895, and or you can look me up on LinkedIn. And I think if you're looking for an opportunity to plug in, to have a voice, to have a seat at the table with one of the largest, most financially sturdy companies in the country, where you're not going to be sort of shuffled into or under another regional, or you're not going to be in a crowded space full of other branches. I think if you want to plug into that kind of an environment and actually have a voice, I think Sierra is an incredibly good option amidst probably several good options in the market, quite frankly. But I think Sierra is a really, really good option that hasn't up until now been an option for the most part.
Right.
We're saying internally that kind of we're the new heavyweight in the ring, going out there aiming to acquire good production teams and companies who might want that next chapter in their careers.
Dalton, that's the clip right there. Rick, it's so great to have you on.